All right, we'll call this Committee of the Whole meeting to order. In compliance with the Open Meetings Act, a current copy of the act is available at this meeting. Madam Clerk, could you please take roll?
Augustine Schulte.
Here.
Barr.
Yes, please.
Hemer.
Here.
Jablonski.
Here.
Creeshaw.
Here.
Lohr.
Here.
Roth.
Here.
Schilling.
Here.
Council President Augustine Schulte, the roll has been called.
Thank you. The first item on our agenda is a discussion about golfing rates and golf professional contract. And who do we have that? Tara, would you like to start this?
Yep, I'll open this. In November of 2020, you all, the City Council, approved a 1-year contract with the golf pro, Doug Dunbar, and a plan to do a rate study in an effort to adopt a multi-year rate and contract. So over the course of the last 7 months, we've been working on an in-depth review of municipal golf courses, their rate structures, financial performa, and management structure. So the memo I provided to you all breaks down 3 pretty distinctly different rate structure options. I'm going to go through the content of the memo now so everybody's on the same page. So as the memo states, over the last year, the golf committee has been meeting regularly, at least once a month, to go over business at the golf courses, review the golf pros monthly financial statement, which is new within the last year and a half or so. That's provided monthly now. Now all parties, I believe, the city, the golf pro, we all understand the business of the golf pro better than before this committee was formed. So that's...
Tara, could you just recognize the golf committee so everybody understands
Sure.
who's part of that?
Sure. The City Golf Committee is Doug Moore, myself, Doug Dunbar, and Keith Klein, and then one member of the CGA, and at this time that's Bill Pedraza.
Thank you.
So basically, now that all parties better understand the golf course operation as a whole, and as a whole I mean both the pro business and the city business and operation, we really want to move forward with that multi-year plan. But because there's so many dramatically different operation styles at municipal golf courses across the state, we need to understand what the city council's goal is in operating the city golf courses. So based on what that goal is 3 different distinct options in rate structure. So as I stated previously, a rate study was completed with comparable municipal golf courses about a year ago, before we came in November and updated that 1-year study. But that had to be updated because since that time, the city of Grand Island has contracted with Landscapes Unlimited to run to operate Jackrabbit Run, and North Platte has sold their golf course to a private developer. Both of those golf courses were in the comparability study prior. So we updated the rate study. It is attached in your packet. It starts on page 3. Based on comparability of municipal golf courses, the committee decided to include the following in the rate study: Highlands and Pioneers in Lincoln, Johnny Goodman and Benson, operated by the City of Omaha, Meadowlark and Kearney, and Jackrabbit in Grand Island. We left Jackrabbit's rates in still because we discussed with Landscapes and they said that they believe that those rates will stay similar for a period of time, so we left them in. I also included here just a list of other municipal golf courses and their a really brief description of their operation style. So a lot of those smaller cities, the city owns the course, they own the land, and they lease it to an entity for $1, so the entity operates the golf course. The Wayne course is very unique. Nebraska City, they operate their own golf course. You can see those high overview of municipal golf courses there. The study shows that on average, the quail run rates prior to the flood were not that far off from these other comparable golf courses. And I should have stated this earlier. The base year for this study that I did is the 2017-2018 season and the rates that were in place at that time, because that's the last year that Quail Run was fully operational, 2018. Because 2019 in March we had a flood, and it's been, the amended course since then. So the majority of the remaining comparable municipal golf courses are enterprise funds, which means their revenues pay for their expenses. The city of Kearney's varies depending on the fiscal year, but looking at their budget, Kearney has lost a total of $226,000 over the last 10 fiscal years. Kearney, Omaha, Lincoln, they all told us that they do get significantly more rounds played than we get played at our two golf courses combined. So that obviously contributes to more revenue. Page 2 of the memo. In addition to more rounds played, we did find that the Omaha courses do not offer season passes. And a similar rate structure with no season passes was recommended in the original study that the city commissioned back when they were planning Quail Run in 1985. So I went back and read that parts of that study, and it did say if the city wanted to operate the courses the most efficiently as possible, they should, at that time it said, not operate Vanberg and not charge season passes at Quail. Then it would be more closer to in the black, if not an enterprise fund. I have put together a few options for you all to consider. As I stated, these are just options to illustrate and show the difference a different operational structure can make to the bottom line of the golf course. There are many different ways to structure the rates at the golf courses, so I've tried to simplify a few options, which obviously any of these can be adjusted. It's really the city council's pleasure and what is your goal, and you need the city staff, myself included, we would like to understand the goal of the city council when operating the golf courses. Is it to kind of continue as we have been? Is it to become as efficient as we can, to lose as little as possible year over year? Or is it to be the absolute most efficient we can and contract with an outside entity that's really a for-profit business? So there are three distinctly different options. Option one is that 5-year rate adjustment schedule. You can see here that the first year one, is not until 2023. So next year, Quail Run is planned to be fully operational, back to the 18 holes it was prior to the flood. And so we don't recommend a rate change for the first year that it's up and running. We will just go back to the rates at Quail before the flood, because right now Vanberg and Quail are the same rates. We dropped the rates at Quail. And so we'll just adjust back to what they were prior to the flood, so that these adjustments would start 2023 if you selected this option. But you can see as the years go past, even with a 10% rate adjustment at Quail Run in year one, the city's still going to progressively lose more money as the years go by. And that's just simple math. That's not accounting for any efficiencies, any capital expense. It's just strictly flat operation. And we, right now, if our revenues grow by 2%, and our revenues are, I'm gonna use nice round numbers, if our revenues are $500,000 and they grow by 2%, and our expenses are $1 million and they grow by 2%, which one grows faster? The expenses. So that's why the loss gets progressively more, even though we're doing rate adjustments. Option 2 is to remove the season pass. And again, that's an option that because it was recommended in that study. When I applied the rounds played in 2017 and 2018 and applied this rate structure, if the same rounds were played, and that's a big if, I understand that, $202,000 more in revenue. So that would be obviously a decrease in loss of about $202,000. Option 3 is to explore using an independent operator. So as I stated previously, Grand Island has recently contracted with Landscapes Unlimited to operate Jackrabbit Run. We contacted Landscapes to just ask what that looked like and what it could look like here for the City of Columbus golf courses, and they provided an attached analysis and performa, and this is based on their operation. They operate about 50 golf courses across the nation, so they took our 2017-2018 budget and analyzed it and applied their standard revenues and expenses to a similar market and came up with that attached performa. Based on this performa, I do want to make it clear though that there is no capital in the Landscapes Unlimited performa. The city would still be 100% responsible for losses. So you see a loss up until the last year, that's still 100% the city's loss, and there's no capital included in that number. So I don't want you to think about that option and assume that in 5 years we're not losing any money at the golf courses, because that's not the case. That would not be the case, I believe. And then those are the 3 options. I'm sure you have lots of questions, but based on what the pleasure of the council is, that will dictate what the agreement with the pro is, the golf pro is. If you elect to go with option or something similar to option 1 or 2, then I would recommend a multi-year agreement with the golf pro. And if you elect to do something more like option 3, we would have to bring in that third party into negotiations. And Landscapes Unlimited did tell us that in Grand Island, they kept the same staff. Mm-hmm. They just, rather than city staff, they became Landscapes Unlimited staff. Maybe not 100%, but that's what they told us. So I can't say exactly what would happen with the pro situation and option 3 situation.
Why did you not include Vanberg?
It is included.
Well, the report says Quail Run.
Which report?
From Unlimited, Landscapes
No,
Unlimited?
it's for both. The title just doesn't have both in it, but it is for
That's a little
Quail Run and
confusing.
Vanberg. It is. The front page says Quail Run, but he said this is for Vanberg and Quail Run. Right, Doug? You understood it. We both understood it to be that. We'll confirm that. But every question I had of him, the budget I sent him was all for both golf courses. Yeah, and the top of the performa spreadsheet says Quail Run and Vanberg, this sheet.
Yeah, but I'm just looking at the introductory letter says Quail Run Golf Course, so.
Yep. What questions do you have for me?
Council members? Any
Tara,
questions?
option 1, your scale shows 2%, like you pointed out. History, wasn't it 3% always?
We haven't had a standard percentage adjustment. The rates at the golf courses haven't been adjusted.
I don't know why I thought 3% was our rolling.
No,
They have been adjusted.
not 3% every year.
We would go every other year, we would look at each line item, and we wouldn't just across the board.
Like we do with the fee schedule every year.
Okay.
But there was no standard.
Thank you.
In the third option, there's some talk about a payment by the city of $72,000 a year.
Yes.
I don't see that payment showing up in the pro forma. revenue.
Yes, I asked that question of them, and it's included in it's included in the expenses, general and administrative.
I thought that was a payment from the
This is-
city to them.
It is. This is what the city's financials would look like in their estimation. These are city financials, not their financials. I mean, it's one and the same if they're operating it, but
I
this is,
don't understand that because there's no revenue to the city. We don't get any range carts or green fees, do we, under their proposal? We don't pay any of their expenses, do we? I don't understand.
we pay for all the loss. That's a city expense. We pay for all the capital.
And we pay for all the loss.
Yep. That's what I stated earlier. They're operating a business, that they're not going to cover the loss of the city. Because much like in Grand Island, the city of Grand Island had a loss, and they must have decided that they wanted to minimize that loss, so they brought on Landscapes with a similar looking pro forma, and Landscapes is, they're a business. So their goal is to get closer to the black, but any loss is still the city of Columbus's. And this, again, includes no capital expense.
Great concept to show no risk.
Do we foresee any capital expense, any major capital expense in the next 5 years?
I would say yes. There's talk of lots of golf carts, the words are escaping me, but the shop, it's,
Well, there was
Need-
talk at one time about a major capital expense
Right.
at Vanberg for irrigation system to the tune of $500,000. Is that still there?
Those are still in the long-term look of what we need to do at the golf courses and irrigation. Then, of course, equipment, because our equipment does wear out, and so there will be long-term capitals that we would have to be responsible for.
nothing is without capital, unfortunately. Charlie, did you have a question?
Tara, you were talking about option 1 and 2, and those start in 2022 or
2023.
Okay.
Tara, if I'm sorry.
ahead,
If we would go with option 3, then from what I'm understanding is we would more than likely need to make a commitment of 4 years. Is that what I'm seeing?
That's what we asked that question of Landscapes as well, and they said they like an initial contract of about 5 years, but they'll put in an exit clause, basically, where both parties can walk away a few years into it. But Grand Island signed 5 years.
Did you reach out to any other management company?
We didn't. At first. Landscapes was recent in close proximity at a comparable golf course, so we went that route. If that's something you guys want us to explore more, we will absolutely reach out to others.
Oh, I think we should. I mean, that's part of our criteria, that we don't go by just one.
Well,
one
if we
quote
give
or-
them our business, then we can't go by one. But if we're just researching market comparables, Landscapes isn't going to be that far off of other similar businesses.
I understand, but the way this lit here, you're wanting to give them the contract.
No, I'm not. I'm giving you an example of what a management contract would look like. I am not saying you should hire Landscapes. I'm saying if we went that route, this is what it might look like. If you want me to look into that, but it's not, I'm not recommending Landscapes Unlimited.
I think there's a lot of questions that the golf community has, and I would suggest that it might be advantageous to maybe put together our pro forma and sit down with each one of us at the council and explain to us exactly how it's supposed to be. You're asking us to make a decision to come forward with some idea. You know, I got this stuff on Thursday, you know, and I've been trying to figure out between now and, you know, between then and now, exactly which way I should go, which way I should think. You know, I've talked to various people, I've contacted, you know, Grand Island, you know, and there's too many things out here that I don't see eye to eye on, or I don't understand, or I think needs to be explained better. And I think the golf community is in the same boat that I am. And I think it would be advantageous to us to, you know, to put this together more, I want to say thoroughly, more than what you have already done.
What would make it more thorough?
Well, I guess one option you didn't look at is selling the whole thing.
Well,
You know,
I didn't look at that because that's not what a year ago or in November.
I think
Yeah.
the gist of this meeting is to figure out, do we want to keep the golf course? And if we do, then we do this. If we don't want to keep the golf course, then we look for a buyer, we look for a management group, we look for something. But I think it comes down to that in this discussion. It's not necessarily, we just need to make, you know, I don't know if we were 100% sold on keeping Vanberg. We still not. I mean, according to Mr. Ross' comment when he walked in the door, it's obvious that he does not think that that's a valid golf course. So that's where we're at. We really have to make a decision. Do we continue to provide tennis courts for the players that play tennis and have no revenue? Or do we provide a golf course that provides revenue but lose money? That's the issue. In my opinion. Now, I might be wrong, and I've been wrong a lot, but I'd like to think that that's the question we should be addressing tonight.
Well,
That is-
I think in a nutshell, Rich has summed it up. And what Tara has tried to bring forward are just some ideas and some options for.
Well, it just looked a little bit more like we were pushing landscapes unlimited.
Yeah.
Because
To me.
I mean, I didn't see that, and I know there are, and I know there are other management firms in the business. And I think what the key would have been is, let's just say this group tonight said, we should learn more about a management firm. Then you get the information on 4 or 5 of them that are out there.
That's
Well,
exactly.
but the point is, she'd like to hear what that direction is. Is there a feel to look seriously at a management firm? Is there a feel to look at trying to reduce the expenditures and the loss? This discussion tonight had nothing to do with 18 rounds of golf or 27 rounds of golf, Vanberg, or anything. It had to do with a direction that staff was looking for from us to try to give them some ideas to dig into that information you're asking for without wasting. I mean, you know, if you had no interest in a potential Landscape Unlimited or Billy Casper or whoever, why ask staff to spend the time and energy to dig into it? That's where Tara's coming from. If you have that interest, I think that's what staff wants to do. And granted, some of that, you probably can't get all the answers all at once, but that, you know, some direction on, are we as a council comfortable always having the loss that's there? And Rich, you hit the nail on the head. Why is the amenity of golf always picked on, and we talk about its loss?
Yeah.
And we don't talk about other losses? Well, the simple answer to that is because it's been brought up. Is that right? I can't say it's right or wrong, but it's been brought up. It gets asked. And because of that, we are asked to answer it. Now, that answer might be,
We're fine
we're
with it.
damn fine with it.
Yeah.
But the answer might not be. And so we're just trying to have that discussion without trying to come down on an absolute answer tonight, but just trying to give staff some direction. I mean, that's where it is.
Yeah.
So, I was gonna say then, so, and maybe I'm jumping the gun here, council members then, what specifically would you want Tara to continue researching? Do you want her to look at what it would cost to sell any of the golf courses? Do you want her to look at for more compare options for independent operators? What are the things that you want her to look for then and to research? Charlie?
I would like to, if you have time and when you have time, could you get with Landscapes Unlimited and maybe get the information of someone that they've done business with over the last 5 years or 10 years or so, and contact those people and see how satisfied they are with that contract?
Sure.
Has Landscapes Unlimited lived up to their part of the bargain? I'm not a golfer. To me, that white ball outsmarts me every time. So I don't play it, but we can run it like a business and cut some of our losses. Yes, I understand we need the amenities of golf courses and swimming pools and tennis courts and all these things, and we pay for them, and not always do we make any money. But if we can slow that down just a little bit, it would help.
From my perspective, I would like to see staff put together a request for proposals equivalent from independent operators to operate the golf course for a 5-year period, and find out from them what they would propose to do. Well, actually, in our request for proposals, we would outline what we wanted and see what the proposers, would ask from us as far as a annual payment is concerned. We've talked about, do we as a city provide this amenity? And yes, we do. We need to provide the amenity. The question is how much loss or profit do we need to take? I think there is some feeling, my feeling, is that our loss is too high. We need to do something to bring down the loss that we are seeing. And if that means going to an independent operator, so be it. But I would like to see a request for proposal. I would like to see those proposals come in and have staff analyze them and make a decision from, at that point, do we go to an independent operator or do we continue with our own pro? We should have, as part of this process, what we think our pro will do. What can we do on our own? What would our loss be if we had our own pro? And we've got figures for that. And we can compare that loss to the loss proposed by the other folk.
So I'm going to interrupt you a minute. Can we make a request for proposals without saying for sure that this is something that we're actually looking for?
Yes.
Okay.
And we'd include both courses.
Yes, if that's the pleasure of the council.
Well, it's my pleasure. I don't know about anybody else's.
Council members, what are your thoughts? Do you want to, are we including both, or do you want
Well, again,
both or separate, or?
I think you're looking at what golf can do in Columbus, so that would probably be an answer they might come back at you with, but let's start with what we've got. We've got 27 operating holes of golf.
Yeah, you could ask them
Both?
to compare Quail Run and Quail Run in Vandenberg. They would likely be different.
From my perspective, I do not like the idea of selling the facilities. I'm not sure that we can do that legally with the Vandenberg facility, and I don't really want to sell the Quail Run facility, but I certainly would like to see what an independent operator would actually do.
I'd vote for that.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
I agree to that too.
Rich,
Yeah,
you're good with that? And Ron, you're good with requests, proposals to find an independent operator, or would you, do you have another thought on that?
No, I think the, any ideas that I might have right now, are probably not going to be looked at, or the rest of you probably will not agree with me. But if that's the way that we're wishing to go, then I would like to have someone on this council be part of that organization, part of the committee. because we out here do not know what's going on. I mean, this is the thing that disturbs me the most, is that I get this information on Thursday and holy cow, you know, I have people contacting me and I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And, you know, so Thursday and Friday, Saturday, you know, not much sleep. You know, I'm trying to figure out what's, you know, the way I was reading it is that, you know, we have a vote tonight on which way we're gonna go, one way or the other. There was no negotiating or anything like that. This is it, you know, ring the bell. And I'm not gonna go for that.
So I'm going to interrupt. Sorry, Ron, I don't mean to interrupt. So are you saying then that you don't, you want Tara to find the,
I would go along with that of getting more information, giving us time. You know, that's the thing that I'm looking at, and at the time to be able to absorb all this and putting it into perspective so that we can understand it and know really what we can do and how we can help this city to make this much more of a viable program. Okay? I mean, I don't know if that makes sense or not, but it does to me.
so, okay, so you're in agreement then. Well, to look, just to compare what it would cost and what other companies would
Yes.
look like? That's what you're, and you would like that information as soon as we have that, so you have time to look at it?
You don't have to have it.
Before a vote or something is gonna be
Yes,
taken?
definitely before a vote. I mean,
Just
Yeah.
a question, how come this didn't go through Public Works?
Public property,
Yeah,
because it's finance and property, and we usually bring things that are both to committee of the whole.
both, okay, thank you.
So, are you, go
I
ahead.
was gonna go back to independent operators, and I was not going to, limit this to big corporations. I'd suggest that Mr. Dunbar would or should make a proposal for this kind of an operation. That he would come in and as a independent operator, operate the course independently and within the constraints of this request for proposal that we would put together.
Not speaking for Doug, but I think that might be just a little bit out of his pay grade.
I don't
mean,
know.
that-
I
mean,
don't know.
That's quite a facility out there that you'd have to ramrod and worry about. I mean, it's bad enough alone that the range is not open or the carts aren't right, you know, but
If you
got a
can't
fun-
handle
you
it,
got a
you
fun-
can't handle it.
You got a fungus in the green. I mean, there are just too many variables to have a golf pro but not that he wouldn't, he might want to. I mean, I think
I
he'd
don't
love
know.
the challenge, but.
I don't know.
But that would be one reason he probably wouldn't. I mean, you know, what's frustrating, and it's always been the lack of communication, you know, and I guess I didn't really realize who is in charge of the golf course. One day we were going out early in the morning to play golf, and they said, you can't play. I said, well, we can't play. Well, the superintendent says you can't get on the course. I said, well, okay. Why didn't we know that? I mean, so we drive all the way out there and find out we can't play. So, you know, and that's kind of it's always been kind of an obvious thing, especially after the flood, who was in charge of what, who was talking to who, and who wasn't talking to who. And I think, I'm hoping your committee, your golf committee has taken that out of that process. But that's a frustrating part from not me being a councilman, but a hacker golfer, that's really concerning, that, you know, who's in charge. And Doug's losing revenue because he can't get out and play, and then here we are. But once again, he knew that when he came to Nebraska, that there'd be days where you couldn't play. But when the sun's out and you're there, you can't play, so. That's my 2 cents.
So, I'm sorry.
One of the things also when you talk about rates and that sort of thing, and that is, they seem that they feel that they don't have the capability of fluctuating rates. For instance, I feel, you know, prime time, you pay the price. You pay whatever the fee that we have established. But there's times during the day, during the week, where, you know, we talk about getting rounds, playing rounds, getting rounds out there, you know, people on the course. Well, you know, you go out there at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and it's 100 degrees. You know, you go down there and pay prime time, nobody's gonna do that. You gotta have it so that you can fluctuate a rate that will match whatever the situation is. And it doesn't appear, we have established what the rates are as the council. And we're obligating them to charge that. So consequently, they don't have the flexibility, to do that. The other thing is, okay, I'm not sure about these programs, but the passport. I mean, the passport, you pay $100 and you can go around the state of Nebraska and play. But there's a specific rate that you have. Okay, we as a council didn't give them the authorization to do that. Northeast Nebraska seniors, which we just got done playing today up at Humphrey, 18-hole course, we pay $50. We get our green fee and we get the cart and we get a pretty nice meal. And we get prize money, $50. They come in and negotiate the cost so we can come in here and play.
Yep, maybe we can do that next year.
Well,
Maybe when Quail's open,
That-
we can give Doug Dunbar full authority to set all rates and see what happens. I'm not opposed. Whatever you want. I think that makes sense. And I also know that they have a youth membership rate now. I heard it on the radio, read it in the paper. They can go everywhere and play for $5 or something. I know they're on the Big Red, but they aren't on the passport. You're right. But they've done those things without permission also, so, and I'm not saying nobody said, no, you can't do that, because it's fine. Like you said, we want rounds out there too. I don't think that's a bad idea to let Doug because all of this is, again, based on starting in 2023. So if maybe this next year, the 2022 season, we give Doug Dunbar the full authority to set rates and try and make more money. And, the contract we have now, the pro gets a percentage of revenues and the city gets a percentage of revenue. So if he makes more money, it's good for him and it's also good for the city. So option 4, it doesn't matter to me. It's really, we want to do what the council wants us to do with the golf courses.
So Ron, are you saying you'd like Tara to investigate that a little more?
definitely,
All
I
right.
think this
About-
would be
I think we can
something
do
that
both, is
Yeah.
what
that
I'm
we
saying.
can do with the pro and ask him, I am not a professional as far as golfing and, knowing the operations, but I've been around it long enough and know a little bit about it that I can see, and I've played, variety of courses. And you go in there, like for instance, we get into, say, August. I can go to Lincoln, Omaha, I can go to Fremont, I can go to Norfolk, and I can get a special rate. I may pay $20, pay green fees and cart for $20 and go play golf. John, you've had this situation, and this is just not me talking. This is what we can do in the fall of the year.
Yeah, we know that's legitimate, Ron, and we again have no problem with being participants in programs like that because it gets more rounds, unique rounds on the courses.
One of the things also I think that's lacking as far as our courses, and I understand right now we don't want to promote it, but we need more advertising, communication of Quail Run to the general public out there. Omaha, Lincoln, Norfolk, Grand Island, we need to let them know what we have. Here's the thing, here's the, talk about the rates again. You come here and play at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, if there's nothing else on it, maybe on a Friday afternoon, we have a special deal, okay? Maybe we can draw people from out of town. That's where we're gonna get the extra play time, is the people we bring in from outside. You know, landscape says, you know, for a 30-minute drive, you know, there's only Vanberg and the Elks Club and Quail Run. Hey, they missed the boat. Within 30 minutes, I can get to Humphrey, I can get to Lee, I can get to North Bend, I can get to Schuyler, I can get to David City, I can get to Osceola, you know, so I can get to Fullerton. So there's a lot of golf within 30 minutes. And so that's where we need to draw people from there instead of us being drawn over there. That's the thing. And they talk about cutting out the rate program. To me, if I pay $1,300 to play golf for a specific period of time, that holds me here. I don't have the idea that, okay, on Thursday, you know, I think I'm gonna go to North Bend and play because, you know, I can play it for a little bit less than here. So I drive down there and you know, and I know the course and I play it. But I've paid my fee, so you know, I feel more obligated. I better stay here because I need to pay, you know, I paid my golf course. So I think that's something that the fee has something to offer, and that is to hold people.
Okay, so as I understand it, we're going to move forward with the Golf Pro contract for the next year, the 2022 season, with Doug Dunbar and give him the authority to set rates?
For us to look at and consider. I don't think it's a for sure, right? We want to look and see what rates he would recommend.
I would suggest he bring the rate to us and his procedure of setting the rate and how, you know, and how it's going to be advantageous to us as the golf community.
One of the things that has been alluded to is the division of authority for golf. We have the council, for example, that sets rates. We have the superintendent out here that takes care of the course. We have the golf pro. Should we have one individual, Mr. Dunbar, Mr. Superintendent, Mr. Councilman, I don't know, be the voice of golf? Do we have this independent operator, Mr. Dunbar, Landscapes Unlimited, whoever, be the voice of golf? This is the guy, this is the person, this is the entity that's going to direct golf for the city under the general supervision and direction of the council. I don't think the council ought to be setting rates and having somebody else do the operation.
Would that be something we could consider having our golf pro do then? I mean, that's
well,
what you're looking at, or?
That's one of the things that I'd
One
be
of the
looking at
options?
is in this quote-unquote independent operator, is have an individual, let's centralize the authority.
Well, it would be with a golf course operator. It would all be on them. But
Well-
maintenance and operation on both sides would be on them. It is more difficult in our current situation where we have a pro that does the assistant pro himself, the staff in the clubhouse, and then we have the city that oversees all the maintenance and the cost of that maintenance and all of that, which is complicated and more expensive to do. So there is division naturally just based on how the contract's written. And I don't know that giving the pro full authority and 100% say is the best for the city, because we do have more skin in the game than the golf pro
Well,
does.
we could write the contract such that we know what our loss is.
So we get back to the point, maybe we make the pro an employee
Yeah, and we looked at that too. That's going to be more expensive for the city.
in the long run. Even though we would capture all the,
Yes.
because we would have to pay help at rates that he does not.
And provide health insurance and benefits, which are, full benefits for a City of Columbus employee are very expensive.
So if we were gonna have an independent operator, council members, what would you prefer to go with Mr. Ross' suggestion that we just find a person and the golf pro would count to him? Or are you thinking, what are your thoughts on that? Or is that something you want Tara to investigate on, or?
We can investigate all.
I think we go with all options. Why limit ourselves?
Yeah.
Okay.
We have 3 options here in front of us that we can
Consider.
expand on
Right.
and then add the 4th or 5th.
Well, and I was just to clarify what the option was, is what I was thinking, so.
Because I think we would be remiss if we didn't ask for some further investigation into the no pass option, only because of what it does to revenue. I'm not saying that's where you go, but and I realize the first thing that's going to be said without a pass is you're going to lose rounds, and you probably will. But you also have other courses that have gone that route, and we've had. This isn't something new. It's been it came up in 1985, So that idea has been out there. So it's not something being thrown out new, but it's something that I think we should understand. If doing away with passes can be conversely equated to X amount less rounds, well, that answers it pretty quickly. And we have courses in our surrounding area that have done away with passes. I think we could get some information. In 2015, you did away with your passes and you had X amount of rounds. What'd you do in 2016 and 17? I think that kind of information's out there, which just allows us to have more educated discussions about what it does and what it doesn't. Because all we can do right here is say the passes affect this bottom line, but you're just guessing on what it does for rounds. So I think it's important to at least try to get a better feel for what it does. None of this is trying to make a decision tonight. It's trying to lead us tonight. And I think everything we brought up is good to get more information on. And heck, if we're throwing on stuff for them to get more information, let's get a little more.
You're talking about the passes. Landscape is the one that says, yeah, we're gonna keep passes.
Well,
They're the one, they're supposedly be the experts in this program. And here it says, continue to develop loyalty performing and including annual passes and play cards will be vital to the fostering, of customer loyalty. So they have, under the type of clientele we have playing at this course, this is gonna be a vital part of keeping our people here and keeping them playing at Quail.
So in your research then, Tara, when you talk to other, in our request for proposals, maybe that's something we need to ask, also include is
What?
about the passes.
I think we need,
Or-
I think, Beth, pardon me, but I think what we need is a request for proposals on an operating entity like a Landscapes Unlimited. We put that together as an idea. Along with that, staff then does homework on passes, does homework on.
Yeah, and I guess
on
that
other
was
things.
what I'm
Yeah,
trying to go for, but.
But you kind of put it all together as the profile,
Right.
that's why I
right.
was separating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so.
I'm not sure that Omaha can tell me. I don't know how long Omaha has not had passes.
And maybe we can't find that
And
information.
that's why I'm saying I don't know if I can get you more information than I've gotten you.
And you might not be able
to illustrate on option 2, it was like, let's do something different with rates. Let's get rid of season passes. Maybe there's a junior and a senior rate, but they're only from 1 p.m. to close on weekdays. You have to pay the full rate from opening to 1, and you have to pay the full rate on the weekends. That's kind of the rate structure when there's no season passes. They're just more aggressive on their rates across the board. So that's, again, we staff want to understand if the goal of the city council is to continue as we've been going, we go with option 1. If the goal of the city council is to continue to operate the way we have been operating, but get closer to the black, more efficient, we look at 2 and we dive into that more. If it is to have 1 point of contact, be as efficient, get the most rounds, it's option 3. That's how I look at it. That's why, in my opinion, these are three distinctly different options. I thought we were going to end up in the middle. So we will do what the council wants us to do, but in my mind, that's the difference between these three options. I need to understand, do you not mind the losses? You want to get closer to black, or you want to be making money at the golf courses? I think that's where we're at, in my opinion.
There's no way, in my humble opinion, that the golf course is going to make money. We want to minimize our losses.
Closer,
We want
closer to the black.
we want to provide the amenity, but we want to do it at a price that is reasonable. And if we always do what we've always done, we'll probably continue to get what we've always gotten.
Correct.
And that's why I am pushing for an independent operator, whether it's an individual, a company, a single point of contact that runs the golf course under the general oversight of the council. I don't want the council setting rates. I don't want the council setting times of openings and closings. I want the council to provide general overall guidance. And I want to minimize our loss. Provide the amenity, but minimize our loss.
That was,
I would say what you're hearing is option 2 or option 3.
but I'm presuming we all want to minimize or eliminate the loss.
We also had option 4 with Doug Dunbar.
Yeah.
And I think we can allude on more information on option 1 as well. You know, our increases could be higher per year. I think we generally need more information on everything to make an educated decision. Not just with Landscapes Unlimited, not just with option 1, not just with option 2 or option 4. Sorry, Tara, but
I mean, I've spent weeks researching this. I have document after document after document researching all of these, and I could have written a 15-page memo, but that wouldn't have done any good because it would have been narrowed down to a few options again. So I guess I'm not getting a lot of clear direction. I guess I thought the direction I was getting was that we want to do a 1 year with Doug Dunbar, and we want to give him a lot more authority in setting rates. And that will be good for the pro, and that will be good for the city. And then while that's going on next season, the remainder of this year and next season, we are researching something like option 3 in a request for proposal sort of format to see who else comes to the table, what they would offer, what they think they could do with the golf courses. That's what I thought, because quite frankly, we don't have any more time we need to get an agreement with Doug Dunbar or whatever we're doing for the interim.
What is the deadline, the date for the
August.
deadline? August, okay.
I need to notify the pro by August.
Mr. Lord?
I would
Go ahead, Ron.
go along with that scenario.
Okay.
I agree.
That wasn't really, that was brought up in here. I
Well, you
mean,
brought it up. I didn't know that was something that the council would be
this is-
entertained.
I would go for that. I think that's one direction that we need to go. We
Great.
need to get the pro going, and then we have time then to, absorb and to look into the other pro forma type stuff that goes on.
Mr. Lore?
Tara, on option 2, when you had the no pass option and the revenues went up from the previous, was that an actual, that people were just paying more per round, or were there more rounds played, or both?
So the 2017, 2018 actual revenues are based on people paying on a pass and people paying as they play per round. So we know who played on a pass and who played as they went. So that was the revenue. If I take those same rounds and I apply the rate to every round, the revenue goes up because there are
They
season
just pay
pass
more per
holders.
round.
Yes, yes.
There's part of this in the mapping and competition segment says that there is plenty of new golfers to mine in our 30-minute radius, so to speak. And I kind of like the idea of whether it's an independent operator or whatever, having the capability of coming out and saying, hey, Wednesday we got half price. And just get some more people involved, because it seems as though it's the number of rounds played that seem to be the key to success on this thing.
Absolutely.
This is the type of thing that we're talking about Omaha, we talk about Lincoln. You know, they don't have the pass, but they have times in which you can play pretty cotton picking cheap. But you go there at 8 o'clock in the morning, you're gonna pay full price. You know, you're gonna pay what's written on the wall. But 2 o'clock in the afternoon, they may have a special deal, and that's what we don't have. And I think this gives us, with the pro and that sort of thing, I think this is a good opportunity to get this established and see
that's what I
exactly
just
how it
said.
can help us.
Tara, do you feel like you have some direction now?
Yes.
What to go with? All right, then we need a motion, I believe, as to recommend to the mayor and the council a motion about having Tara proceed to.
One quick question first.
Sure.
Doug sets, I mean, he's putting a proposal together and bringing it to us first for
If
approval,
that's what you
correct?
wish.
I mean, because he could set it for $1.
Yeah, but then he'll lose a lot of money.
But
It's mutually beneficial. If Doug Dunbar does better, we do better. If Doug Dunbar does worse, we do worse. So I don't think he's gonna shoot himself in the foot, you know?
Yeah.
That makes sense, yeah. All right, do we have a motion, please?
Tara, could you verbalize the motion that you
sure.
discussed just a moment ago, please?
What did we just say?
Yeah, motion to authorize staff to do a 1-year agreement with the pro, with, terms as discussed, and proceed with RFP for independent operators over the course of the year.
So moved.
And that's
Do we
basically
have
to
a s-
establish rates and that sort of thing, right?
To look at what it would look like to have an independent operator.
We need a second, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Ma'am?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. Do we have discussion?
Before you vote?
Yes, certainly. Please do.
I'm not really speaking about the recommendation. I want to just talk about general things.
You need to recognize yourself, Bill.
Okay, Bill Pedraza, 3175 Prairie Lane, former city manager, know a little bit about city business. I would like to start my comments by saying, why does it seem like you guys want to pick on golf? You do a lot of things for people in general, lots of things. For example, Parks Recreation, 1.7 million. What's an acceptable loss for that, Trent? Airport, 315,000. What's an acceptable amount for that? Library, 1.4 million. What's an acceptable amount for that? Senior Center, over 100,000. What's acceptable for that? Golf course, 372. That apparently is not acceptable. I wonder about that, I really do. You say, well, those are things that we offer to all people. And you do. We offer golf to all people. Just because I choose to play golf, that makes me pay more? I don't choose to use a library. And the library's become really a computer center where people come in and use the computer. Should they pay to use that computer? What would be an acceptable loss for that? I keep hearing this. I'm a senior citizen. I'm on fixed income. I pay $1,356 to play golf. Is that too much? I don't know. But I doubt seriously that anyone pays that kind of money to use the swimming pool, to use the aquatic center, to use the senior center, to use the library. It's a recreational activity. It's not a money-making activity. You do a lot of things in the city that don't make money. Why should golf have to make money? I really want you to think about that. Why? Because somebody complains? Because other people do it? Comparability is something that just drives me crazy. How do you compare? You can't compare Omaha and Lincoln with Columbus. Not near enough people. And you also look at your other stuff. Let's say you want to look at water rates. Do you comparability of water rates, or do you do what it takes to run the water system? You know the answer to that question. So think about that. It's just food for thought. We keep hearing this is 2.5 years now. We've come to you and said, give us a break on this golf money thing. Why do we have to make money playing golf or providing golf for people? And again, it's food for thought. As far as the recommendation from the CGA, Columbus Golf Association, I like what I heard, what Tara said she wants to do. Because we were going to say, look into contract with landscapes. Get more information. I'm like Ron. They didn't include a lot of the golf courses around here in their market study. I doubt seriously that they can come up with that many more rounds. So I like the idea. And again, food for thought. Thank you.
Thank you. I do think it was mentioned, though, earlier about it does seem at times like we're picking on golf, but I think that's the one that's brought to the attention to the council more than anything else. And so anyway, it probably appears that way without it being intended to.
You want me to come up and complain about the others? I'm not.
No.
I think we need
Well,
to
you're
have-
welcome to, but maybe not tonight since we only have 25 minutes left and we still have another item on the agenda. So
Thanks for the opportunity.
you bet. Thank you for speaking.
And I have one quick thought here that I want to add to all of this. I'm Terry Hosley. I live here in Columbus at 408 South 5th Street, right across from Quail Run Golf Course. And I think I told you the last time I talked to you, we also have a cabin out at Steyer's Lake, right across from Vanburg. So anyway, when I got and I belong to our Columbus Golf Association, I'm on the board. And it's been very, very interesting to learn all about our golf courses and how they're run. And that it starts with our administrator over there, Doug Dunbar, and also with Brent McGrew. And I know you've been handed tonight these to look at. I don't know if you've had a chance to do that yet, but I hope you all do, because we are so fortunate to have administration in golf here in Columbus like Doug and Brent. And so when I heard that we may have this new landscape business come in, I kind of panicked on that. I thought, well, what's going to happen with them? So hopefully, as we work through these different ways to keep our golf course viable and whatever, that they look at our administration. I see Doug every morning over there parked at 6 o'clock in the morning. 6 o'clock in the morning, he's working. And there's golfers in there right behind him. And then we've got Brent. He is amazing. You'll find when you read this article, he is one of the top 50 coaches for golfers, youth golfers. And you know, you gave us the opportunity to start the new Vanburg Youth Leagues, which are going to be great. I talked to Brent the other day, went into the office, and he said, how's that going? He says, well, we have over 70 signed up in the younger age group, and I think over 20 already in the high school group. So he has just worked his tail off to get this going. I saw him over at the course throughout the winter, and you know, they do have some time off because it's snowy and nobody can golf, but they're over there working, all of them, both of them, and I really appreciate them, and I wanted to give them a good plug because that's so important. They're very likable, the kids like them, and you're gonna see more golfers here in Columbus because of those two. So anyway, that's the plug I have for our administration over at the golf courses, and I hope you all get a chance sometime to really sit down and visit with them. They're great. So that's my plug tonight for them.
Thank you.
John Misfelt, 3965 Lost Creek Drive. I just wanted to address a couple of things that were thrown out and asked and maybe not answered. Mr. Roth, you had asked about the possibility of a governing body to help make those decisions. just a reminder that there was a golf board several years ago that was disbanded without much information. So I think that would be a great idea if there was a golf board again. Number two, the staff, Landscapes Unlimited does say in here and on their website that they prefer to keep staff. At Grand Island, I talked to the pro out there. They brought him in from South Carolina. Only one person is on the staff still there from Grand Island, from the previous staff. And he still does not have staff in place yet. Also, the pro at Grand Island, Kyle McManus is his name, and he works for Landscapes Unlimited. I asked him about the season passes, and he wholeheartedly agreed with me that canceling season passes is a deal breaker. That won't help any of the courses. And Mr. Schilling brought up the different time zones. For a lot of golfers who go travel, you get on a lot of different apps and websites. You can go right on, I'll use Quail Run as an example. I could go on Quail Run, and it has the times that are open and the prices that you can pay. You can actually bid on some of those prices so that you can get cheaper prices, and that's how a lot of those courses do that. It would be a great opportunity for Quail. So I just wanted to give you some information on some of those things that you had asked about. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Madam President, for the sake of time, I think we need to move forward with our.
I agree, thank you. So we have a motion. Can you read the motion? And we've had a second. Can you read the motion for us again, please?
This is kind of an abbreviated version, but I have recommend to the mayor and council to proceed with renewing contract with Golf Pro for 1 year with authority to set fees or other terms as discussed, and staff send RFPs and research all options throughout the year. Is that basically?
Okay, and council members or committee members, we need to vote, please.
Okay, let's get back to the agenda. There you go.
All right, and the motion passes. There's our hammer. And we'll move on to the next item on our agenda, which is the remodel of an addition to the Charlie Lewis Fire Station. And Tara, will you be presenting on this, or Chief?
Rick Kuhl is here from WSKF Architecture to
Okay.
present to the committee of the whole.
I don't mean to rush you, gentlemen, but just if we can try to complete our discussion in 20 minutes or less, that would be wonderful.
It's, Janelle, can you pull it up? Rick, he can't put it over there.
Chief is good with going quick.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think you'll be fine.
We're gonna start council a little later.
We can, but I don't.
Well, I have what she gave me. Is it the current one?
You either need a laptop or she can just pull the operate it.
I'm gonna rush through a $1.5 million proposal.
Okay.
She's got it though. I was surprised at the poor shape of the exterior when they showed those pictures.
Just get it going here so we can advance the pages.
Good evening. My name is Rick Kuhl, as Tara said, with WSKF Architects. We're the architects for the new headquarters in Station Number 1. We proposed and were selected to look at the renovation and expansion of the Charlie Lewis station. So what I want to do is kind of run through a little bit of the background in terms of where Charlie Lewis has been kind of through the ages, starting in 1998. I want to talk a little bit about kind of our station assessment, so conditions assessment, if you will, of the station. I want to talk a little bit about what is being proposed in terms of the station renovation expansion. Talk a little bit about the cost estimates, and then follow that up with some comments, or if you think of things as I'm going through this and want to ask questions, please do that. Please stop me as we go through this. So, are we ready?
Open the PDF here. There we go. Okay. Shut this.
Okay. Go to the next.
Ready.
All right.
Try to get it a little bigger.
Okay, so I just kind of went through the comments, the list of the agenda. Yeah, let's go to the next slide, please. So this is a floor plan of Charlie Lewis, and kind of highlighted the area in green, which was a future expansion of Charlie Lewis when it was originally designed. So in 1998, you'll see in there the reference to future dormitories in terms of that particular expansion in 1998. You go to the next slide, please. So in 2018, when we initially looked at Charlie Lewis in terms of dormitory, so providing space for living space, if you will, for firefighters, we looked at understanding that dormitories are not the norm these days in terms of living quarters for firemen. Obviously, trying to find gender neutral design is the important thing. So we don't know if we're going to have female firefighters and how many female firefighters or male firefighters. So we provide design space that would allow for either on the fire department. So what you see up there is 4 independent bunk rooms plus a small kind of living space that's outside of their common area. This was in 2018, so 4 bunks in a day room. In July of 2020, one of the things that's happening in the fire industry these days is that there is a high incidence of cancer among firefighters. So from a philosophy standpoint, we're big believers in that where you work shouldn't make you sick. So the design then took on a little bit different flavor as a result of kind of that orientation in terms of the design for the fire station. So what you see is the highlighted areas. The green area on the right-hand side of the slide is what we call apparatus-based support space. On the left-hand side would be the bunk rooms, as well as a day room space, and then the space to the top is a fitness area. And the green area at the bottom, there was some consideration in terms of whether we should provide a office space for police at this location, and so that green area at the south is what encompasses the police office. Go to the next slide, please. So this is the site plan, if you will, with 8th Street along the bottom. It's a triangular shaped site, obviously, but one of the things that's lacking in making Charlie Lewis a full-time firefighter station is parking. So 4 crew members would be on staff at any one particular time. So that means that when you have shift change, you need 4 more stalls. So 8 stalls of parking were identified in terms of the site plan expansion. And then the crosshatched area, and I'll show you this in a little bit, is the concrete apron out front that's in pretty bad condition. So I want to run through some conditions assessments. I'll show you some photographs. This is a photograph across the front of the station. As you can see, the apron is in not good condition. In this photograph, I'll go to the next slide. So some close-up views of the additional area in terms of concrete paving for the apron. Next slide. So part of the design of the station incorporates a product called Efus, exterior insulation finish system. So it's actually a faux stucco, if you will. So there's a mesh product that gets put on foam, and then there's a stucco product that goes over the top of that. So you can see that the finish on the Efus is actually starting to come off. So that's the mesh that you see that's being exposed in this photograph.
How much of it area is bad?
Quite a bit of it across. Yeah, the front is the only area that has this material. But it's pretty prevalent across the front of the station.
It's good news. I just finished my back wall of my building with it. I'm hoping it's not going to.
Well, it's probably a little better than this was when this is done. So yeah. So just some more conditions. One of the challenges with some stucco, depending on the texture, is that it will hold moisture, but it will also hold dirt. And so over time, you do need to generally clean that, and it's easily scrubbed off. And a little Dawn and a little brush, it'll take care of it. So next photograph, please. So other parts of the station have a vinyl siding, so here's a section of siding that's gone, and actually some of the interior walls exposed in this location. The other thing that's generally true, and you'll see in this photograph, is that the grade around the building is pretty high. And that's a pretty flat site, so it's pretty prone to having moisture intrusion at the base of the building.
Sir,
Yes,
I have
sir.
a question.
Yeah.
It's probably for the police chief. Why do we need office space for a secure festival at Lewis Fire Station? I mean, with a new police station that we have, I would think we'd have enough room over there. But, I mean, I'm not putting it down. I'm just looking for a little more information on why we would need that.
I could answer that, Dennis, because in discussions we've had as the city continues to grow, we believe, new police station or not, that there needs to be a police presence in other parts of town from time to time. You probably travel around and see a police car parked once in a while somewhere.
A lot.
Those fellows or those gals are doing reports, they're doing administrative work. The feeling is at some point as our force grows, that needs to be done in a small office.
Sure.
You know, a lot of communities would have a frontage in a strip mall that might serve. And so I think that's the thinking here. This being on the south side of town, I would venture to say in a few years, you may hear that discussion to happen maybe out by the Parkway or out by the high school. A way to just spread our coverage and serve the public in a better manner. And I think, Chief, okay, yeah.
You're exactly right.
Thank
And it shortens the amount of response time if we're there working on reports.
Okay. Thank you both for the information.
One of the things that's important in terms of fire station design these days is to keep most everything that you can out of the apparatus bay. The apparatus bay has, because of the carcinogens that come from the vehicles generated by the exhaust of the vehicles, has found to be one of the sources of illness among firefighters. So fire hose actually deteriorates with the exposure to products of combustion from fire trucks. So we do have a lot of hose that's stored in the bay. There really isn't any storage space for the hose, so it's kept in the bay. We go to the next slide. Also, you can see that there's really a lack of storage space because apparatus is parked up against storage space that's on the floor at the back of the station, and again, kind of insufficient space for storage of things that the fire department needs, whether that's foam products, whatever it might be. Next. And so obviously tight quarters, but one of the things that you see, and I think maybe it's in the next slide as well, is that there's gear that's hung in the apparatus bay. Can we go to the next slide, please? So fire retardancy of the gear breaks down with the products of combustion from the apparatus. So storing gear in the apparatus bay is not a good idea. Also, the gear gives off toxins because when firefighters go to fire events, who knows what's in the fire, and whatever is in the fire in terms of product combustion a lot of times ends up being residue on the gear. The gear does get cleaned on a regular basis, but it does, you can't clean gear all the time because it will deteriorate pretty quickly in terms of the washing of the gear and the drying of the gear. So, scope of work. So, based on our discussions with the fire department and kind of our recommendations in terms of what the Charlie Lewis station should be, understanding that when we try to design a fire station, whether it's a renovation or a new station, doesn't really make any difference. We try to look at a 40 or 50-year horizon in terms of that station. So, the proposed design that you see up there, which includes bunk rooms, day room, apparatus support space in terms of gear storage, SCBA, self-contained breathing apparatus, which is actually the refilling equipment in terms of the air that the firefighters breathe. We think that that shouldn't be in the bay, so that we should be looking for spaces to provide that. Physical fitness is a pretty important thing these days in terms of the fire industry, and making sure that you have capability of being able to, while on duty, be able to have access to physical fitness, but also be able to respond to an event if you're at the station as well. So the scope of the work as it's proposed is a 5,700 square foot new paving addition, along with a 4,000 square foot apron replacement. So we've got almost 10,000 square foot of paving that we're looking at with this station. And I think that the previous slide was supposed to have square footage in terms of renovation and expansion, and it might have gotten buried, but the renovation space was approximately 5,000 square foot of renovation and approximately 3,500 square foot of expansion, so approximately 8,500 square foot total. Oh, there it is. Okay. We go to the next slide, please. So this is the proposed view of Charlie Lewis. So obviously the 3 existing bays and the space that need immediately adjacent to that exist today, but the last section over to the left didn't. And that very far right section is also being added. We're trying to simply match the existing station in terms of profile and design, trying not to, I guess, embellish the station, if you will, trying to make it more functional from a design standpoint. The estimate that we've looked at for this addition is $1.3 million, which is renovation expansion. It does include a 10% contingency. And we are, in our cost estimate, treating the PD office, which is a relatively minor cost, as an alternate right now. And then I think the next slide is for site. So site work, which includes the paving, understanding that fire trucks are fairly heavy pieces of equipment. The paving is pretty heavy duty, so it would be all concrete paving, as well as dealing with some of the surface water conditions that exist around the station, trying to mitigate and control water intrusion at the base of the building. So the total project cost is $1.497, which includes, again, 10% contingency. So if you do the math, it's approximately $150,000 in contingency right now.
Does that include CE?
Excuse me?
Does it include CE, your estimate? Construction engineering,
No,
oversight?
it does not. It does not include.
What would you
soft.
estimate percentage-wise?
So our fees are normally somewhere in the 6 to 7% range of that. And we've already been paid part of that to do the study, so we've incurred some of that cost. So that would be credited to that.
Is this paid with sales tax money?
I have a slide showing how it would impact the half-cent sales tax, if I can get up and
But I mean, the
show it.
original fire station was part of this project, right?
Yes, and the half-cent sales, that's the half-cent sales tax for public safety and cultural arts library facilities. We can use that for public safety facilities, and that's what I would propose, and I can show you how that impacts that.
Charlie?
Question for the chief more than you, sir.
Sure.
How much for the equipment that we're gonna fill this new station with?
We aren't proposing any new additional rigs at this time. We have a fire engine down there that's in pretty good shape. It will need replacement in probably 5 to 8 years, somewhere in there. It's got low hours. We're also in an agreement with the rural fire district, and part of that agreement is they have to provide a fire engine that will stay in town for the next 10 years, and that will probably be at that facility. We have an ambulance in that facility that's 20 years old that I've requested for replacement just because of its age.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Mr. Lohr?
Chief, if it looks to me like there's 4 people that will be living at that.
We designed it for 4 personnel, as Rick alluded to, and as I try to allude to, this is a 30 to 40 year renovation, but we do need to staff it in order to make it operational and functional. And I would like to come and talk to you folks as soon as reasonably possible about staffing needs.
Okay, when you get 4 new staff, or 4 new positions, how many people do you have to get to fill 4 positions?
Well, to get 4 positions, if you filled every bunk there, that would be 16 people.
15?
Or, excuse me, 12.
12, okay, that's
Got
what.
math today.
And would those people rotate in and out of the other group, so to speak?
That would be something we'd have to toss around. It's obviously advantageous when you're talking operational effectiveness to let all your personnel know all the aspects of the city and not lock them down to one area or the other. In the much bigger communities, sometimes when you get on the job, you stay at that station for the rest of your career, like at FDNY or someplace like that. And more moderate communities in Nebraska, you tend to move around, but a lot of that comes down to what the union agreement is and transfer rights and all that kind of stuff. We would, in a community this size, probably be much better off with a rotation plan so that personnel are aware of what's in that station equipment-wise operationally, as well as what's in that territory for target hazards, things like ADM, BD industries. The big industries are on that side of town, and those target hazard threats are over there. So we'd want the personnel to do some rotational time in there to learn that.
Thank you.
I would remind the council that the whole concept of bringing Charlie Lewis up to a full-time station was part of what we had committed to the public when we brought on our new fire station and decommissioned and destroyed, demoed our old. But I also remind you that we said we would do that in a gradual process. We would get our station up and going, and we would staff it in a gradual way so that we can afford to do it and we can handle it in such a way that it makes sense for our community. So I think this is the first step of that. We owe it to our community to get a station that does handle the needs, and I think if you dig into this, you will see that it's being done to be that kind of a facility that's going to be there for the next 15 to 20, 25 to 30, maybe 40 years, and have those parts to it, so we're not coming back, or not us, some council's not coming back in 10 years and saying, we need an addition, or we need this. And we all know what things cost 10 years from now. And so the thought is this is a bigger budget bite than what we had anticipated. But any of us involved in building know anything today has been a bigger budget bite than it was a year ago because of where our economy is right now. So I think the point being, we feel good that this is what the community needs, and I think, you know, as a council, we should feel good that we're stepping forward with something like this.
Can I make one more remark? And that's part of the redesign of this is so that personnel would feel safe working in that facility, just as safe as they do in the other one, and you wouldn't have a situation where I felt bad or anybody felt bad or an employee felt bad working out of that station because it was in much more disrepair than the other one and much less of a healthy place to work.
All right, council members, I would entertain, is there any discussion? Very good, then council members, I would entertain a motion.
Madam President, I'd recommend, make the motion that we present to the City Council the option to remodel for the addition of Charlie Lewis Station.
Second.
For the record, before you vote, I want to show you what it does to the financials, just because I don't want to leave you uneducated. Again, I'm not recommending the proposal, but I do want you to understand what it will do to the half-cent sales tax balance. So here is the beginning, the balance of the half-cent sales tax, the start of this fiscal year. This is the spending in our current fiscal year out of that half-cent sales tax. That is spending for Charlie Lewis design, estimated.
Can you blow it up, please?
Sure. That is,
There, thank
the library, lost, and, the economic development, 425 that's taken out annually, and the principal and interest on the fire and police stations. So at the end of this fiscal year, this is the estimated balance, the field that's highlighted. Okay, so if we're going into this next fiscal year with that amount of cash, and this is the spending for next fiscal year with 1.646. I included 10% for CE because we hadn't gotten a response on the percentage of CE. So he said 6 to 7%. We'll see how that comes out when it really shakes out. I estimate we'll still spend $1.7 million. Go ahead.
Part
Charlie?
of that, but that $90,000 is already part of that fee, correct?
That's design and a small bit of CE. It'll be closer to this than the 1.49 number. Then again, what we're spending for the other commitments of the half-cent sales tax. So I want you all to understand that if we spend this all in 1 year, which is probably unlikely, it will probably go over two fiscal years. But worst case scenario, the half-cent sales tax fund is going to go in the red. We can absorb that with our other sales tax revenues and historic, we budget very conservatively. We have cash on hand. We can do that. I just want you to understand that the fund is going to go in the red if you proceed with this. And I want to remind you that staffing cannot come out of the half-cent sales tax. The voters approved it for facilities only. So, 10, 12 people with a cost of $1.4 million, that's like a 12-cent levy increase for the city of Columbus to pay for that in one shot. I don't think that's attainable in a short period of time, and I've told Dan that. The worst case scenario, again, right here, unless you choose to do a lot of staffing and concurrent with this, that's going to be a significantly different picture. But as we move through following fiscal years, so long as we don't have other public safety facilities we want to invest in with the half-cent, it will start to grow again and get back into the black. Any questions?
And your sales tax is conservative?
It is. Mm-hmm.
Very conservative.
Very conservative.
Being very
To see it
conservative
that
gives
way.
a little comfort with some negative numbers.
Right. Any other questions? Thank you.
All right, with that added information, gentlemen, go ahead and vote.
Choices do we have? I voted and my screen popped back up.
Did I vote twice?
Mine did the same thing. When I voted,
Same here.
it said it got my vote, but then it came back up to vote again.
Vote again then.
Okay.
Said, are you sure? No.
And our motion passes. All right, thank you. Our meeting is adjourned. Mayor, are you giving us a lift
Yeah,
for a
let's